is the 10th day of Menachem Av, and Baruch Hashem, we are onto the next Mishnah. Sharing the link here with everybody so that Chaver can follow along. There we go. Beautiful. Okay. While everybody's coming on, Rebudi had asked the question. He said, "I'm surprised that a bracha of any kind was ever made on building the sukkah." Commenting on a couple of days ago. So the bracha that was made was not Asher Kishan says the bracha was a shechianu. It was a shechianu on the building the simcha of the sukkah, and the simcha of the sukkah. I have a new sukkah. So if you bought a new thing, or built a new thing, you'd make a bracha, a shechianu on that, which takes into account both the sukkah and the mitzvah of sukkah. So that would then take its place, would take that out of the kiddush, because you've already said a shechianu on the simcha of the opportunity. And that is what we no longer say today, and that was the Mordechai that we shared. But, okay. Jumping right into Mishnah number 2 in our Maseches, the top of Testament Aleph, says the Mishnah as follows: Ein chashim shema gira chulda. Masnisin, sorry. Masnisin ein chashim shema gira chulda mi bayis lebayis or mi makom lemakom. We are not concerned that a weasel, so some of the translations call it marten. But I think chulda is some kind of meerkat, weasel, rodent kind of thing. You don't have to be concerned if you were looking for chametz. You've already searched your house. Good. Now the house is searched. Do you have to be concerned that something is going to be bringing in more chametz? Says the Gemara, no. Because if that would be the case, another safe, meaning that you could never know that you've checked anything for chametz ever. That would be an impossibility. Says the Gemara. Gemara says, now, the reason that we can assume that a weasel hasn't been dragging something from one house to the other is because you didn't see a weasel dragging something. But this implies that if you did see a weasel running into your house with something in its mouth, then we should be concerned. To buy bedika, now you have to check your whole house again, because now there's some chametz there. Says the Gemara, let's challenge this. Why would you need to check the whole house again? Nema achalte. Maybe you should assume that he's eaten the chametz. And if you see a weasel dragging a pita into your house, he's a weasel with some roglach, right? And he's running into your living room, and then you've already done bdikas chametz. So you don't have to assume that a weasel's eating roglach in your living room. But if you see him running in with a rogel, you say, okay, so now I need to check my whole house again. Says the Gemara, well, why? Maybe the same way that he brought it in, he's already eaten it. Says the Gemara, Miloitanan, have we not learned? Midaras Hagayim, and I apologize, this is not a very pleasant Ma'amar Chazal. Midaras Hagayim Tameim, the residences, the houses of non-Jews are Tameh. What kind of Tameh? Tameh of Tumas Mace, or at least a kind of Tumas Mace. What are we talking about here? How long does a non-Jew need to be in a particular place that you need to check it? Check it for what? You have to check it if he's been there for 40 days. What is the context of this whole conversation? So this is what Chazal discuss, that Jews are very careful about burying those that we love, burying the dead, but also we're very careful about burying, even though it's not a din d'oraisa, it's a din d'rabbanan, to bury a miscarriage. And this is a Mishnah in Maseches Ahalos, or Ahilos, according to some. Rashi points out that Medursa Ovdei Kachavim Tmeim Pnei Shekarvim Niflem Bevatehem. that the non-Jewish residences are tameh because they bury the nafel, they bury the miscarriages in their houses. They don't bury them in the cemetery. They just dig a hole and put it where they put it. Says the Gemara, and this din is true. 40 days after a non-Jew has lived in a particular place, you have to check it before you can go and live there, because you have to be concerned that maybe there's tumah there. There's tumah that is in your house, that is in that house that you have now taken over. And that would obviously be a problem for a guy, and it would also be a problem for a Yisrael that wants to make sure that he's eating kachim b'tara, or even chulin b'tara, for those that were machmer the days of the chachamim of eating chulin b'tara. Says the Mishnah, continuing, and even though the non-Jew that you are buying the house from, taking the house from, renting the house from, even though it's a single guy. Says the Mishnah, that's going to be our operating line. But even though he is not married, why would you need to check the house even if he is not married? There's no way that there could be a nafel there. Says Rashi, because you don't always need to be married in order to have nafel involved in your life. Meaning that it's entirely possible that a person would that a non-Jew would have some girlfriend that became pregnant and has a nafel, and now he has to take care of that. The Meiri points out that it's a dinner, it's a loy plug. It's a loy plug that the Mishnah is applying. The Meiri does not say, because he says it's a loy plug. It's for the sake of consistency, that all non-Jewish homes we should be concerned. He does not have the concern of immorality. And this is in line with the Meiri in general, that the Christians that he was around were a higher echelon of Christians than those that Rashi was around. And anyway that a chulda, that a weasel or a chazer, a pig, can walk around, meaning that they come in and out, you don't have to be concerned. Why? Because a chulda and a chazer, if there's some nafel buried, and again, very unpleasant to think about. If there's some nafel that's buried, they're going to dig it up. They're going to take it off to eat. The assumption here is that, and this is the challenge that we are issuing, is this Mishnah is saying any place that a chulda and a chazer are able to walk around, you don't need b'dika, because the assumption is that they're going to eat everything. So if you see the chulda running through your house with a rogalach, then you should assume that they ate that as well. Says Rabbi Zera, there's a difference for a chazer and for a chulda between basar and lechem, between meat and bread. But basar lo mishayir. When it comes to meat, they don't leave any crumbs. They don't leave anything left over. But lechem, when it comes to bread, mishayra, they squirrel it away. Meaning there's pieces that they'll leave. They'll want to come back next week. But lechem mishayra, they leave that. And since they leave that, even though they will eat it perhaps at some point in time, maybe one of your kids is going to find it before that, and then you're going to have the problem of finding chametz, of owning chametz, of eating chametz in Pesach. Amar Rava says, "Hi, my, what are you talking about? Bishlam hasam imur hava, imur loy hava." With regards to the nafel, you had a question: was there a nafel, or was there not a nafel? You don't know that there was a nafel. And if you want to say Imra Achalte, and if you want to say maybe there was a nafel, then you say maybe he ate it. Aval hacha the vade chazina de shakel. Okay, you saw him walking through the house with chametz. Mi yemer da achalte. Yeah, can you also assume that he ate it? Have a suffix uvadai. This is a case of a suffix versus a vadai, meaning you have a case of doubt versus a case of certainty. There's a suffix. Did he eat it? The vada is it's there. You know that it's there. You saw him bring it. So that's a vada. And then there's a suffix, whether or not it was eaten. Says Rava, ve'ein suffix moitzi midei vada. You can't have a maybe he ate it that is then going to solve your problem of this vada chametz there. The Gemara now challenges this statement of Rava, and this is a very important shas sugya. Says the Gemara, "Ve'ein safek motzi midei vade." Is it really true that a safek is not going to be able to undo a vade? That if I have a doubt, that's not going to be able to overrule something I don't know with certainty. Vatanya, don't we know? And we've seen this price once already. That if you have a Talmud Chacham that dies and leaves a basket filled with peros, filled with produce, and even if they were picked that day, you know with certainty that these things are masukan, that the trumas and maasros have been taken off. Now let's analyze this. You know with certainty that these things were tevel, meaning when they were picked off of the tree, when they were harvested from the ground, you know that they were tevel, means tevel is that which is untithed. You know that they were untithed. That is the halachic status of them. And then the guy drops dead. You have a shaila. V'savik musar, v'savik loy musar. And now you want to know, was maasros taken from it or maasros not taken from it? You have nobody to ask. V'ka'asi safik, and we're saying that you can assume that they were maasros, that he took the maasros off. So v'ka'asi safik, now there's doubt, maybe, I don't know with certainty, I'm saying, maybe he took the maasros off, and it's going to take it from tevel to maasros. Meaning you know something with certainty, you're making a well-educated guess for the second thing. And all of a sudden we find that a suffix can be Matzim Vade. Says the Gemara, no, that's not what's going on here. Hasam Vada Vadehu. Here we are talking about two things that we know with absolute certainty. The Vade Masri, we know that he took a Meiser. Keder Rabbi Chanina Chazal, like Rabbi Chanina Chazal said. Damar Rabbi Chanina Chazal, this is what he said. Chazaka. We have a chazaka. Chazaka means a status quo. We can operate under the assumption, but it's an operating assumption, that a chaver would never ever have a situation where his fruit, where his produce, where his grain was left untithed. That is an impossibility. That is what is called a chazaka. Now, we should point out that a chazaka doesn't mean something that we're saying is an educated guess. We're saying it is an operating principle. For example, and we'll put people to death based on a chazaka. For example, we have a chazaka that it's easy to tell who the mother is in pretty much all cases. Not always easy to tell who the father is. So we have a chazaka or a rove. The Gemara says rove bi'elas achar abal. That most of the time, even if a woman would be licentious, most of the time she's going to be sleeping with her husband. And since most of the time she's going to be sleeping with her husband, we can assume, based on the status quos and based on the majority cases, that the child is the child of that father. Now this has major halachic ramifications, because if that child hits his father and draws blood, that child could be chayv misa. We don't go and do a DNA test there. We call that a vade. It's a vade. The chazaka doesn't mean it's a good educated guess. It means it's a vade. It is something that we can operate on with absolute certainty. For example, you get onto an airplane. Do you know that the airplane is going to take off? No. You have a pretty well-educated guess. How well-educated? Enough that you're willing to put your life on the line. That's called the chazaka. Chazaka means a status quo. Yeah, you didn't see the engineers building it. You didn't see the building plans. You don't know enough about aerospace engineering, but you trust Boeing and you have a chazaka that the plane is going to take off. Okay, that's a chazaka. Chazaka is called a vali. Then the Gemara says, or there's another way of learning the whole sugya. Alternatively, you could say safiku. That we're talking about with the chaver and the produce, that safiku, that both of these are a case of doubt. What's the doubt? Maybe you could say that it was never ever tevel. How could it never be tevel? That it would be like the case of Rav Oishia. Maybe you say that it was never tevel, and you're not sure. You're not sure if it was tevel. You're not sure if he took a meiser, and it's a safek versus a safek. What does Rabbi Oishia say? Rabbi Oishia, Marim Adamal Tvuasa, a person can do harama on his tvua. What does it mean? Harama is a legal fiction. It's a loophole. umachnisa b'moed and he can take it into his chatzar b'moed together with the shaf, the husks that go around it, so that his animal can eat it, and then it'll be part of her meiser. The halacha is that when you bring your grain into your chatzar, into your courtyard, if it's still in the shaf, there's still stuff around it, so that your animal can eat it. You don't have to take a meiser from it at that point in time. And meaning, if you brought it all the way in, the animal is eating from it. You don't need to take meiser. That's called a harama. It's called a harama. You're going to end up never needing to take meiser from it because it's not grain in a way that humans would use. Says the Gemara that's the harama that Rav Oshia suggests. That it is possible that a person would be able to do such a thing. Now, if you were going to do this harama and bring the tvua in like that, then it would never have the status of tefel because it never is chayv in meiser. So now you have a situation where you have grain which is not chayv in meiser, and you have a question whether or not the chaver took meisers from it, and this is the suffix with suffix. But then the Gemara challenges at the bottom of the Amud. The Gemara challenges once again our assumption of Rava. Rava told us that in suffix moitzi midei vadai that there was a difference between the case of the chulda that you saw versus the nefil that you didn't see. Says the Gemara challenging that statement of Rava in suffix moitzi midei vadai. Is it really true that you cannot have a suffix that takes you out of Avada Vatanya? Don't we have a Bryce? Amar Rabbi Yehuda says, Rabbi Yehuda, Ma'aser b'shuchasai shel meitzik echad berimon. There was a certain story that happened with a meitzik. It's a person that had a temper. Berimon in a place called Rimon. She tila nefel a bar, that he threw a nefel into a bar. Sounds like an unpleasant person. He took a nefel, took a miscarriage, and he threw it into a pit. Uva kohen, and then a kohen came, v'yitzitz and was like, "Whoa, what's going on?" V'yitzitz leida im zachar hu im nekevahi. The kohen comes along and he wants to know: is this a zachar or a nekeva? What's the difference? Why would the kohen need to find out if there's a zachar or a nekeva here? Because the halacha is, even with regards to a miscarriage, so the din is that if a woman has a baby, Baruch Hashem, please God, a healthy baby, everything going well. So the halacha is that there's what's called dam toyar. We don't pass on like this halacha l'maisa today for a lot of different reasons. When we get to Maseches needed, we'll explain more. But the dam toyar means that for 40 days after she has a boy, this is the pasuk at the beginning of Tazria. The halacha of dam toyar is that for the first 40 days after having the boy, she can assume that any other blood that she sees is part of that and is not going to start a new tumah. It's not neither blood and it's not zava blood. It's dam toyar. It will not continue. It will not create any kind of new tumah or new isur. And that's 40 days for a zachar, for a male baby, and 80 days for a female baby. So the kohen is looking into the pit. He wants to see, can I figure out if this is a zachar and a keva? And then I'll be able to tell the woman how long the dam toyar is going to last. And the chachamim came along to deal with the question. Well, okay, but now is this kohen going to be tameh? Is the kohen going to be tameh? What's the question? So if there's a pit with a nefel in it, and the kohen is mahil al ha-mes, the kohen is leaning over. He's creating an oil. He's creating a tent over the mace. So then, even though he's not going to touch the mace, that's called tumas oil, and the kohen would become tamei as a result of the nefel that's there. The story came in front of the chachamim to know: is he tamei? Is he not tamei? V'tiaru, and they were metar, and they said, no, you can assume that you are tahar. Why? Because there's a chulda and there's a bardalus. The chulda weasel, and a bardalus is some kind of. I think they translate that as a polecat. But I was looking at the Jasra. Those that remember the Jasra dictionary is now available on Safaria. So the Jasra says that it is a hyena or a leopard. So that's a barrelus. The barrelus comes up a few times in Shas, but some kind of carnivorous animal is mitzuyin sham. So the Kohen is trying to figure out if there's an nafel. He didn't see the nafel. He didn't see the nafel, but he wants to know maybe it's there. Where is it? Says the Mishnah. Because since there's these animals that you can find there, ostensibly you can assume that it was carried away, that it's not there anymore, and therefore the Kohen was not mile on a mace. To be continued tomorrow. Everybody should have a marvelous day.